Hey, it's Brian Willey with Attorney Profit Systems, and I want to welcome you to this week's video on reputation management, or also known as online reputation management, ORM. This is one of my favorite topics, and at the same time, least favorite topics, because I have many clients where they come to me and they say, Brian, the phone's not ringing. I've done everything that you've said, and the phone is just not ringing. And then we dive in much deeper and we start looking at their reputation online, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And we realize very quickly that either A, they have no reputation, or B, even worse, they have a bad reputation and they didn't even know it. And so this is sort of the make or break week, and it's extremely important. Years ago, before the internet was prominent, your reputation was made really through referrals. People would kind of talk about you in the community, and if they would say if somebody liked your work, typically they would tell a couple people about it. If somebody was mad at you and really didn't like your work, a lot of times they would tell 7 to 9 people about your bad work. So, and that's still true today on the internet. People are more apt to leave a negative review than go out and take the time to leave a positive review. So you have to really remember that. It's somewhat difficult to actually get people to leave a positive review, and there are things that you can do to move that along, and I'm going to talk about that in this video. But make no mistake, they're very apt to leave a negative review. If they don't like your work, they have no problem taking the time going on to some of these sites and leaving reviews that can cast you in a bad light. And look, don't worry about it too much. I mean, do your job. Obviously, we're in an era now where we have to provide stellar service. But as lawyers, we don't always win, and that's just the nature of the business. You can take on a case and do your best, and you think you have a great chance of winning, and the judge doesn't side with you, or you enter into some sort of settlement agreement and your client gets most of what they want, but maybe some of what they don't, and they were thinking going in that they're going to get everything they want, and they may give you absolutely no indication at all when they leave your office for the last time that they're even mad at you, and then suddenly they lash out at you on the internet. Believe me, this happens all the time. So your online reputation is very, very important, because what's happening now is people are searching for you and references about you and reviews about you. And so how this works is, we've talked about all the different ways to get traffic to your site and all the conversion tactics that we can use on your site to help you do really well and position you in such a way that you're seen as the authority. And you can even have third-party testimonials on your site, which I highly recommend, by the way, and we'll dive into that a little bit here today. But a testimonial about you from a past happy client. Well, that's basically you crafting your own image. Now what happens is that image had better match what everyone else is saying about you online. And really, it's through just thousands of sites now. It's incredible how many different review sites there are, local review sites. And so, you really have to think in terms of somebody's going to be searching for me, and they want to see what I'm all about. And what people don't realize is that you can do all these things correctly on your own site and create your own image, and people even if you in the last video we talked a lot about search engine optimization, and that's really keyword driven, where let's say somebody's looking for an Alabama criminal lawyer, and they type in Alabama criminal lawyer, and your site comes up number one, and that's a result of SEO, and they land on your site. That's all, that's all good. They land on your site. Again, you've crafted your own image the way that you want. You have a site that converts. You have testimonials on site. Well, guess what they do next? Here's what they do next. They start researching the heck out of you by typing in your name. And literally multiple variations of your name. It just depends on who is performing the search. And I don't mean one person is typing in multiple variations of your name. I just mean that if you're in a position where your paid search is doing very well, your SEO is doing very well, that means you have a lot of traffic to your site, a lot of different people going to your site every month who are thinking about hiring you. Well, step one will probably be them using keywords to find you. Atlanta divorce attorney, something like that. Step two is, once they land on your site, is they're going to figure out who's the primary lawyer, and they're going to type in your name. And again, it will be multiple variations. Sometimes people might say attorney, Joe Schmo, Alabama criminal lawyer. Sometimes they just say Joe Schmo criminal lawyer, Alabama attorney, Joe Schmo. I mean, literally thousands of variations of this. And here's why this can present a problem, is that Google's search engine's results will show different third-party review sites depending on which keyword string somebody types in or which variation of your name. And so where online reputation management comes in is it's a way of controlling the story about you, presenting the story in a light that matches what you've said about yourself. And I'll show you what I mean when we dive into how this works. But just know that online reputation management can literally make or break you. If you've done all these different things we've talked about, the phone's not ringing, and you know that you're getting good traffic to your site, you know that it's converting okay, well, you really need to do an analysis, or hire somebody that's qualified to do an analysis of your online reputation. And typically that involves a pretty deep dive analysis, somebody typing in multiple variations of your name and seeing what comes up about you. A lot of times, if you've done things the right way, of course your website's going to show up, your Google Plus local listing will show up, and then it's somewhat of a crapshoot what else shows up. It could be Yelp, it could be Avvo, it could be Super Pages, Insider Pages, and the list goes on and on and on. There's literally thousands of these review sites, and many times they'll have no reviews, and so that's where you're in a situation where maybe people can't find enough about you, where essentially you have no online reputation, and that can be almost as bad as having a bad reputation. Well, why is that true? Well, people really want to know what you're all about, and they want to know what others are saying about you. And if they've found your site through whatever means, SEO, paid traffic, and then they go search for you, and all these review sites pop up, but there's no reviews. There's nothing really about you on these review sites. Well, it makes them question, well, why should I hire this guy? It doesn't seem like anybody's really used him. Why should I hire this gal? Nobody's used her before. And that's probably not the case, obviously, but nobody's bothered to leave a review. Now, on the other hand, if they go there and they see all kinds of bad reviews, then you're also in bad shape, because people make a decision based on what others are saying about you. Very, very important. So what we want is to control the narrative, control the conversation by making sure that there's lots and lots of good reviews, and that the right reviews are showing up in the right places. And so this is done in a number of different ways. I'll be the first to tell you right now that the majority of the reputation management companies out there will tell you that they will remove bad reviews. And I would say 90%, 95% of the cases that's inaccurate. They cannot remove bad reviews. It's very, very difficult to have a bad review removed. Most of these companies simply won't do it. Google, for one, just won't do it, flat out. Unless you have a court order that you've been libeled somehow, and you show that to Google, then they might remove it. And I say might because literally I mean then they might remove it. Even then they're not apt to remove reviews. So Google doesn't like to be bullied. You really have to go to extremes to get something removed on Google. On Yelp, same thing. Now Yelp, I've heard stories, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they do have representatives who have called even some of my clients and have offered to have certain reviews removed, and they're trying to get you into a paid advertising program. Now again, I don't know this personally to be true. Yelp may not engage in that practice. I don't know, but I've heard rumors over the years that they do this, or that they have sales reps who will at least promise it. Now whether they actually will remove the review or not remains to be seen. I have no idea, but that's a possibility. I have had some luck in having reviews removed in the past from places like Avvo, for instance, just by sending sort of a nastygram to them, more or less, and telling them that this is libelous to my client. This didn't occur this way. Somebody left a bad review, and demand that they take it down. And this was years ago, but in many cases they would take it down. Now Avvo has become a huge presence, and I'm not so sure that they would ever remove a review today. Other things like super pages, insider pages, Judy's book, all these different review sites, it's very difficult to get them removed. So when you hear these, you'll hear radio ads all the time for online reputation management, or you'll get emails and different things about doing online reputation management. We'll get this removed. Well, that's 99, probably 95% of the time inaccurate. Very difficult to get a review removed. Now, what's not so difficult is to control the narrative. So again, that's what we're gonna aim for, is to control the narrative. And here's how this really works. So let me just kind of show you this in action. Let's just search really on the fly here for I'm just going to pick something literally off the top of my head. Let's try Gainesville, Florida. I'm just coming up with something right here. Gainesville. Why don't we say criminal attorney? Sorry, it's going to make me solve a few little captchas here along the way. I do so much research on Google throughout the day that they get mad at me because I'm punching in keywords all day long, figuring out client positions and keyword opportunities that they make me solve captchas they want to make sure it's not a robot sitting out there doing things. Okay, so let's take a look here. Gainesville criminal attorney. Now, of course, we see the ads on the right and at the top, and then we see the first few organic listings. We've got somebody named Miles Kinzel, GainesvilleCriminalDefenseFirm.com up top, and then we have lawyers.findlaw.com. Avvo, like I said, is a huge presence everywhere, and this looks like this guy right here, the first MAPS position, Kinzel, Zadel, and Whitaker. That's a mouthful. They might want to call themselves KZW. So, they're doing well in terms of their positioning, right? Now, the first thing you want to look at when it comes to online reputation management is numbers of reviews. So even if you're in this position, which is, again, we talked about this in the last video, it takes some work to get there. It's really all about how your page is set up, your website, your Google Plus page itself, the organic search engine optimization techniques that are taking place in the background. So it used to be easy to just show up on maps. Not so easy anymore. This takes a lot of work. It takes a professional company to dive into your site, set it up the right way, and take care of this for you. It's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to do yourself unless you're in a very non-competitive niche. But obviously criminal defense, very competitive. So the first thing to look for, if you're lucky enough to have landed here, is numbers of reviews. Well, you can see Mr. Kinzel, if that's how you pronounce his name, his firm's got 4 reviews. Now, what do you notice about the rest of the 7-pack is what they call it. Let's count here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So that's what they call this little setup in Google is called the 7-pack, which is the 7 listings that appear for Google Maps, with Mr. Kinzel's firm being listed as map position A or number 1. Well, what do you notice about the rest of the pack? No reviews, right? Well, that's probably a bad thing because, again, who are you likely to go with? The person that has 4 reviews or the person that has no reviews? And none of their competitors have any reviews. Now, with that being said, not all things are equal, because let's dive into Kinzel's reviews. Are they good or are they bad? Well, they're actually really good. It looks like a lot of 5-star reviews. 5-star reviews. Now, it's hard to say because years ago, and I'm not accusing these guys of doing this at all because I have no idea. I don't know anything about this firm. Years ago, people would go out and just leave reviews. They would have you literally could leave yourself a review if you wanted to. It's completely unethical. I would never recommend it. And not only that, it would get you banned from Google at some point because they would start to figure out, okay, this is coming from the same IP address. So there were lawyers, there were lots of different types of businesses that were leaving themselves reviews. So you always want to have unique reviews coming from your actual clients where you're directing them to go leave you a review. But so this is good. This looks like they've got all 5 stars here. So what happens if I then let's do this. Let's type in his name, Miles Kinzel. So what I'm going to pretend here is that I've gone to his website. I'm impressed with the way that he set things up. He looks like the right guy for the job. What I would do next, and what the vast majority of people do next, is they start typing in the lawyer's name and variations of the lawyer's name. So let's see what other kinds of reviews or review sites come up in relation to this person here. Miles reviewed Gainesville. Miles Kinzel, Gainesville. Put Gainesville attorney. I think I spelled Gainesville wrong. That's okay. We'll click that correct button. Okay, so you can see his firm comes up number 1. And as we talked about, his Google Plus local page comes up number 2. Same thing we just saw where he has 4 reviews. And so what's next? Now, he's got a few more internal pages from his website that come up next. And then he's got an Avvo page. He's got a lawyers.law Cornell edu page. Let's see, Manta is a huge review site. Let's see what else he's got. Well, let's start with that. So a lot of times there will be other third-party review sites that start to show up, but let's drop down to Avvo and just kind of check out if anybody's left him a review at all on Avvo. It's got a great rating on Avvo, 8.2, which, by the way, is controlled a little bit by how long you've been in practice, how much industry recognition you have, and then your professional conduct. Obviously, if you have any professional misconduct, that's public record. Avvo goes out and will scrape the public record and takes that into consideration with your ratings. Now, you can get endorsements from other attorneys, but what we want to see is if there are any actual client reviews. And there are. It looks like average client rating says there's 8 reviews, 4.5 stars, so that's really good. But this guy right here, or this woman, whoever it is, unless you want to plea, don't waste your time or money. 1 star. Mr. Kinzel's only attorney attribute is how fast he can get you to plea. So that's what I'm talking about with a negative review. So although somebody's going to, hopefully a rational person is going to look down and say there are 8 client reviews, and let's just dive in and look at all 8 client reviews in general. I'm not going to read all of them, but outstanding attorney, DUI case, 5 stars, excellent, excellent, excellent. Everything's excellent. And a rational person would put that together and say, okay, well, there was one person that just Kinzel didn't get the person what they wanted, and came back and left this guy a 1-star review. Then there's a whole bunch of other people who will look at that and think, oh man, this is ugly. Why would I want to deal with this person if he's going to get me to plea? And so they sometimes will make their decisions based off of that. So that's really, really important. And so this is where reputation management starts to come in. And we'll talk a little bit about how that works. Not getting rid of, if this was an inaccurate review, maybe he didn't even work with this person and it's a competitor that's leaving him a bad review. Or it's inaccurate entirely where this just didn't happen this way. Mr. Kinzel here could contact Avvo, try to get them to remove it. More than likely they won't. So we'll talk about strategies to essentially bury this without getting rid of it. So control the narrative to where our good reviews are showing up on top, our bad reviews are showing up on the bottom. That's what we want. But so overall, this guy gets good marks, right? He's doing really well in terms of his Google reviews were great. His Avvo reviews are great. Let's look at Manta, see if there's anything. Okay, I don't see anything on Manta. And let's just type in a different variation of his name, because like I mentioned, people will often type in variations. I might just type in Miles Kinzel Gainesville. Let's see if there's different results that show up. And frequently there will be. In this case, there's not. So let's type in Miles Kinzel criminal lawyer. And we're just going to see what comes up here. Okay. A lot of the same stuff for this guy. So that's probably not the best example, only because many, many times you'll see all sorts of variations of different types of sites showing up. Let me try one other thing here. Otherwise, we'll move on to someone else, because I want to show you some different examples so you get a feel for how this works. Gainesville, Florida. Let's see if anything different shows up. That's pretty much the same on this guy. So let's move on and look at somebody else. When we first looked at Gainesville criminal attorney, Gainesville criminal, whoops, typing too fast here, criminal attorney. And okay, so let's just grab somebody else's name here. Let's see. Okay, let's look up this person here, Del Graham. Let's go to the website. I just want to make sure that's an actual name and not the name of a firm. It could be two partners or something like that. So we would just look at the attorneys here. Let me see if the person's name is actually Del Graham, or if there's anybody named Del Graham. It looks like it's just a name. Maybe it was a former retired partner. So let's grab a different example here. This looks like obviously somebody's name, Robert Whittle. So let me grab his name here. Actually, that's an image, so I can't copy that. Let's go to a different window. And what was his name? Robert, W-H-I-T-T-E-L. Gainesville. I got to spell Gainesville right. People from Gainesville are probably saying, why are you spelling this wrong? Let me try to solve these CAPTCHAs. Sorry about that. These things are a little annoying because you can't read exactly what they're all about. Okay, so here's his Google Plus page, which should go, yep, to the same, goes to the same website. So let's see if he has anything out there about him at all. Yellow Pages, that's a review site. Let's see if anybody's left a review. So you can write a review here. Anything about this guy at all? I don't see anything on Yellow Pages. So let's dive down and see what else is out there. Yelp, huge review site. So this is a better example of, than the last one that we were doing. Let's see. Write a review. Is this your business? Claim this business. So this person hasn't even claimed their listing. There's no reviews about him whatsoever. Merchant Circle, huge review site. Let's see if there's any reviews about Mr. Whittle here. This is community activity near Gainesville, Florida, former client. These are all essentially just related things. These are not, let's just see. This says deceptive marketing tactics, beware, read more. Let's see if this is about his firm or not. I don't think so. No, this is about a different firm. So these are related firms. So right here, Merchant Circle, I don't see any reviews about Robert Whittle. Let's type in a different variation of his name. Gainesville attorney. Because I want you to see that these things oftentimes will show different results. Not always, but sometimes they do. Here's Justia. So you see it's showing a little bit different results when I typed in the word attorney afterwards. We're still getting some of the same things. Avo's there. Let's look at his Avo page. He's got a great Avo rating. He has 6 reviews on Avo, so that's good. Let's see. And we'll glance at his reviews real quick. In general, excellent, 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 excellent. So here's a bad one. Gives lawyers a bad name. This is a client from 4 years ago. Don't waste your money or time. 5 years ago. So here's the thing about that. Already I'm forming a perception of his practice and his online reputation. If I'm somebody searching for a criminal lawyer, I stumble on his site. He looks like the guy for the job. I start typing in Robert Whittle. What have I noticed so far? What I've noticed is a lack of reviews, and so he almost has very little online reputation. You look at his Google Plus page, that'd be the first to review. No reviews, no reputation. We looked at Yelp, no reviews, no reputation. Yellow Pages, no reviews, no reputation. We can look at Justia, which I don't think you actually, let's see. Yeah, I don't think you can actually leave reviews on Justia. I think that's just a listing. But we looked at Merchant Circle, no reviews, no reputation. So I'm hoping you're starting to see a picture of what's going on. Let's look at localyahoo.com. You can leave reviews here. 0 reviews on Yahoo. So what's going on is, in general, this guy just has no reputation. So people are going to be a little wary about working with him. And then if they somehow stumble on his Avo listing, he's got a good rating here, but if they dive into the reviews, it starts off really good and tells a good story. They're like, wow, for the last couple of years, it's all excellent. But then he's got 2 really, really bad reviews down at the bottom. He didn't even show up to my court hearing, left me to deal with it on my own after $4,000. Don't waste your money and time. Didn't do anything on my DUI case. So the problem is it's a combination of no reputation and a somewhat bad reputation. So what I want you to understand, I don't want to belabor this point because I want to just dive in really quickly on how these things get fixed, how you start to create your own online narrative. But what I want you to understand is that there are all of these review sites out there. And what happens is, based on the contact information on your website and a lot of times through sites like Yellow Pages, these sites will scrape those listings, will scrape other listings, and will create a listing for you without you ever having done it yourself. So I can't remember what site we were on, but it basically said, claim this listing. Are you the business owner? Claim this listing. What's happened is that business owner, in this case Robert Whittle, did not set up that business listing. All these different sites set them up on their own by scraping information on the internet available, piecing it together, and determining that this is his name, his address, and his phone number. Here's a listing. And so he may not even know that these sites exist about him, and because he hasn't claimed it, so he has no control over it at all. Yet people are still allowed to go out and leave reviews. So that's very important. So just understand that if you've done business for any length of time at all, and you have a website, sometimes even if you don't have a website, just by sheer fact of you being in business, Yellow Pages will often figure out who you are, where you're located, create a listing for you, and then it just goes from there, out of control. Literally, there will be hundreds of listings and references to you on the internet, on all these third-party sites with your name, address, and phone number. And so, and then the other way that it's done is you actually have control over it, where you're creating what are called citations, where you're claiming all of these listings, or if a listing doesn't exist, you're creating a listing on purpose because it actually can benefit your search engine optimization work, to allow you to get better Google Plus local positioning, because Google Plus takes that into account, how many citations you have. So a citation is just really your name, address, and phone number, and some additional information about you on all these third-party sites. So it's basically your choice. You go out there and claim these things and set up the listing exactly the right way, or they're going to do it for you if they haven't done it already. And if they've done it already, it's still not a big deal. You go out, claim the listing, then you have a login information where you can get in and out of the site if you need to. But either way, whether you claim it, whether it's been scraped and kind of cobbled together for you, they exist, and people can leave reviews. And as you've seen, people can leave no reviews, where it really just presents no picture about you at all, or they can leave a combination of good and bad, sometimes a lot of bad. You just need to kind of perform a search, and it's not uncommon for lawyers to have some bad reviews. And what would worry me about his practice a little bit, if I'm searching, is no reviews, and then these pretty glaringly ugly reviews, and just not enough of them even on this site. So you get here and the ratio is not that great. He's got 3 or 4 really great reviews, but then he has 2 really bad reviews, and the problem is they're all sitting on the same page. So what's the strategy? How do you solve this? Couple different things, couple different ways to solve this. So here's how reputation management really works. So forget all the stuff you've heard on the radio where they say, oh, we're going to get the negative review deleted. Here's the strategy typically. What we want to do, and I'm going to go back to do my little search here, Gainesville criminal attorney. Let's just type in his name again. Robert Whittle I'm probably still spelling Gainesville wrong. I'm forgetting that E. What we want to do are two things. We want to take the sites that have good reviews on them and push them up towards the top of the page. And we want to do that for all these variations of ways that people type in his name. So if they're typing in Robert Whittle, Gainesville attorney, Robert Whittle, Gainesville criminal attorney, criminal attorney Robert Whittle, there's literally many, many, many variations of it, of ways that people will search for things. And there's ways of figuring that out through Google Analytics, through different keyword tracking tools to figure out what types of variations people are searching for. And then we would want to look at maybe the top 10 variations of how somebody's name is searched for and figure out, okay, well, what's appearing on page 1? We don't worry so much about page 2 because in general, 99% of the people never move past page 1. But what I would want to do, though, is start to figure out, okay, where does this person have good reviews? Well, we know on Avvo, he had good reviews. So where's Avvo on this, in this mix here when I type in Robert Whittle, Gainesville? So where is he? And I'm just going to glance through. So you see it's not on page 1 at all. Other variations of his name were on page 1. So what we would want to do is try to figure out where Avvo is situated right now. And it could be, page 3. It could be nowhere to be found. But the point is that that's where the reviews reside. When we looked at everywhere else, Yellow Pages, Manta, we looked at Yelp, there were no reviews at all. So strategy number 1 would be to try to figure out where his reviews reside. And if they're at least a combination of good and bad, which he has, we would want to use search engine optimization strategies to start to move that position up. So right now I'm not seeing Avvo at all. And I think maybe it appeared for this search term. Let's just take a look. I can't remember. So here's Avvo for a little variation of that. So you can see variations matter. People will type in variations. In this case, I added the word attorney. Avvo's on page 1. But it's in position 7. That's pretty low down on page 1. So what I would want to do is through search engine optimization tactics, bump up this page so that it's higher up in the search engine's results. So we'd have his website, we'd have his Google Plus local page, then we'd have his Avvo page. The next thing I would want to do is probably try to get more and more other pages where he doesn't have any reviews at all and bump those up. So ahead of things like just general listings, so he's got a listing on Cornell.edu, which is a great listing to have, but I don't think it's a review site in any way, shape, or form. I think it just gives you, gives practice areas and contact information. And so the strategy would be, we want to start to paint a picture of Robert Whittle. And the way that we do that is website, Google Plus Local, which will almost always show up second, by the way. Very difficult to make that change at all. Review site number 3, review site number 4, review site number 5. So what we would do is we would look at all the different instances of review sites out there and start with ones where there are positive reviews, and using SEO, bump that up. So essentially through proper link building, which we talked about in the last video, so I'm not going to really get into that, but it's the same, it's the same tactics really as we talked about that would raise up your website in the search engine's results pages. We would do the same thing. So in this case, we know that Avvo is the only place that we saw reviews. We would want to move that from position 7 to position 3. And then we would want to look at some other major review sites like Yelp, Super Pages, whatever's out there, Yellow Pages, all these things. Start to move them up so that it starts to paint a picture where it's all about him and all reviews. Because when somebody's typing in your name, they're more or less not looking for a directory listing. They're not looking to say, to go to your Cornell.edu site and say, okay, well, that's great. This guy specializes in all these different areas. That's awesome. I learned about all that on his website. They don't care about that. When they're typing in your name, they're looking for reviews, period. And so you have to recognize that, and you have to control that narrative. And so the way you control it is to have website, Google Plus local, followed by all review websites. And that's all done through SEO. So you essentially are moving these things that don't matter as much down onto page 2. So the Cornell.edu listing, we would say we don't care about it. We want to move it to page 2. We would say, any of these other sites that are not, I don't know if Bloglines is, I don't think that's a review site. Might be. Related categories, I don't see any place to leave a review. Move that onto page 2 and move other things up. So we would want to figure out what else exists. Merchant Circle, review site. Yelp, review site. Localyahoo.com, review site. Super Pages, review site. So you get the point. What we want to do is move all these and stack them up on page 1 so it starts to tell a story about our lawyer. And so that's tactic number 1 is SEO, to get things onto page 1. Get the review sites onto page 1 and do it in the right way. So if obviously this is a person who really doesn't have much of a reputation online, he may be the greatest lawyer in the world. He just doesn't have a reputation online. There's other firms out there that I've dealt with where the story is much different. Maybe they have 3 or 4 review sites with mostly really bad reviews, and then they have 3 or 4 review sites with mostly good reviews. So what I would, and sometimes all on page 1, which can create confusion for somebody and make them want to look for somebody else, because there's all these bad reviews but then there's some good reviews and they're just not sure what to do. So the tactic there would be to start to push up the good reviews so that they're situated on page 1 above the bad reviews. In other words, the websites with primarily good reviews get moved up through SEO. The other ones get moved down just by nature of the fact that the other ones were moved up, and you're not doing anything with the other ones, so they start to move down. We might also dive into things on page 2 and start to move those up to start to bury the bad reviews and move them down. So that's tactic number 1 is SEO, essentially controlling the positioning for lots and lots of variations of keyword terms. So when people talk about reputation management and they say, they'll charge you $3.99 a month or $7.99 a month, real reputation management actually usually costs quite a bit more than that. And it can be an ongoing project. Sometimes it's a 6-month project. But it can be pretty expensive. And the reason is because, as I just showed you, all these different variations of his name that people type in, there might be 10 variations, create a different results page where, maybe Avo's gone completely onto page 5 if I type in the word lawyer. Well, for sure we know it's gone if I just got rid of that. We know that Avo's gone entirely, and Avo's where we want to be. We really want that on page 1. Well, we couldn't find it anywhere. So the point is that each variation of somebody's name would require a different amount of work. And we know that people type in so many variations that we essentially have to start from scratch each time and say, okay, well, where is he positioned for this keyword? And we want to move Avo up. What's that going to take? And we know that when we type in this variation of a keyword, he's got 3 other sites that have bad reviews. How do we push those down and push something up that's on page 2 with either no reviews or good reviews above that? And so the analysis isn't just for one variation of his name, and the work is not just for one variation of his name. So the point is it's not uncommon for reputation management firms, which is really just a fancy, more involved version of SEO. That's really all it is. It's not uncommon for them to charge $5,000 a month for 6 months, because it requires a tremendous amount of work to get that taken care of. To position the good reviews where you want them, and to drop the bad reviews. And so that's the tactic. Tactic number 2 is really just what I call the sort of the burying tactic. And I'm going to go back to his Avvo page to show you what I mean. So let's go back to Avvo here. Okay, so remember that when we clicked on his reviews, he had a number of good reviews and 2 really bad reviews. So he might try to contact them and say, hey, that's not fair. This really didn't happen this way. Try to get it removed. Maybe they work with them. Maybe they don't. I don't know. Typically not. But the best thing he can do is get many more new reviews. His last review was from 3 years ago. So what I would do is seek out more current clients, send them an email along with a link to the actual review. And when I say a link, you would just copy this here and put it in an email and send it to a bunch of your best clients, say in the last year or 2 years, and say, look, can you help me out here? I would be really grateful if you'd leave a review and let people know about your experience with me. And if you thought I did a good job, if you can, leave me 5 stars. And so you really have to actively reach out to your past clients and get them engaged with you to want to do this. And a lot of them won't. A lot of them just, will say they will and they never get to it. And so it's kind of a numbers game. You really have to just go through your files, figure out who you've worked with. And this is very important. Figure out who you did a good job for, who they're happy with you. If it's kind of iffy, I wouldn't reach out to them, because you might end up with another one of these things down here, which would be bad news. So you really want to start to reach out to clients. And what you do is you start to stack up more and more good reviews on top of these reviews from 3 years ago. And what happens? Not only are there more good reviews than bad, so the ratio becomes better, but a lot of times these bad reviews eventually get pushed over to page 2 on the review site. And that's what we really want. What we really want is to get something buried completely. So in that earlier example of, I think his last name was Kinzel, on one of his sites, it might have been Avvo, his number 2 review was really poor. Everything else was great, but he had one bad review. I think it talked about, plea bargaining, and that, somebody gave him 1 star. Well, there's more work to do there, because it's not like it's 3 or 4 years old and it's at the bottom of the page. It's more of a current review, and it's in the number 2 position. So what we would need to do is make sure that, Kinzel gets lots and lots of good reviews that are on top of that, to push that bad review that's in the 2nd position down to the bottom of the page onto the 2nd page. So that's the tactic. And that's reputation management in a nutshell. It's really about SEO, taking review sites where there's either bad reviews and pushing those down, or good reviews and pushing those up, so that it starts to create a picture of the person. When they type in your name, they see their website, their Google Plus page, and then a bunch of good reviews on one site, good reviews on the next site down, good reviews on the next site down, and then controlling the narrative in terms of burying the the bad reviews on site. And that's done really through you, where you would go out and reach out directly to your client, include a link to Avvo or whatever site you're on, and ask them to start leaving reviews there. And you want to mix it up. You want to really kind of do this in conjunction with your reputation management firm. So in other words, if they, you don't want to just randomly send your clients links that your reputation management company is not really focused on from a search engine optimization perspective, moving up. If they're going to still keep that listing on page 2, well, it doesn't make sense to start leaving all your reviews there. But you want to figure out, which are the sites that are really going to be moved up and why, and then start to get reviews on a number of those sites. And if you have certain sites that are more blatantly ugly than others, where, for instance, there's just 3 or 4 negative reviews up top, maybe 2 positive reviews on the bottom, you'd want to start there and start reaching out to clients and say, get as many as possible to leave positive reviews to bury those negative reviews onto page 2. So all reputation management is a combination of much more sophisticated SEO than just doing search engine optimization to a website. It's controlling many results rather than just your website for many variations of your name. So that's why it can get pretty pricey pretty quickly. There's a lot of work involved, but there's also a lot of money to be made involved for you, because if you have no reputation or a bad reputation or even a borderline reputation like this, you better believe that people are going to go and seek out your competitors who have a ton of reviews and a ton of great reviews. They start to look like the logical choice. So this, just to kind of recap, the steps are they're gonna search for you using some sort of city or local term plus whatever type of law you practice. Gainesville estate planning attorney. And they land on your website, and let's hope that through search engine optimization and through paid ads, you're everywhere. It's very easy to find you and get to your website. And again, we've done all the conversion things that we've talked about, where we convert them with a good offer, to get our book, and we get them on our list, and we've got our contact form in a prominent place. We've got our phone number in a prominent place. We've got a non-stuffy, non-lawyer looking website that stands out. All these things we've talked about. Step 2 is they then are going to take your name and they're going to figure out, well, what's this person all about? Are they good or are they bad? What do other people say about them? And then they're going to read through what people are saying about you. And if they find lots and lots of great reviews about you right away, chances are they're going to call you and they're going to hire you, because these reviews are just like a trusted friend being a referral source like they were years ago. It's a form of referral at this point. Even though they don't know the person, they're trusting their experience with you to make a decision whether they should now hire you. And so if you've got 5 or 7 or 10 review sites in a row right after your website and your Google Plus page with all these great reviews, they're going to hire you. If you've got 5 or 10 sites that have nothing about you, they're suspicious. They don't know whether they could trust you, not trust you, because nobody's talking about you. You could even have testimonials on your site, and again, they would see that as you're kind of hand-picking the best ones. Now, that's not to say that testimonials aren't extremely important. They're very, very important, because that starts to create a picture about you, because it's not just you on your website talking about yourself. It's your clients talking about you. But that's not enough. Then they want the narrative to match what is on your website. So all these great testimonials on your site, they want to go and search for your name, and they're hoping that all that matches. They want to make sure that that all your reviews are in line with your testimonials. And if there's nothing out there, again, they're suspicious. They just, they think, oh, this guy is not experienced. nobody's talking about him. I don't have enough information to make a decision. Boom, I'm going to move on. And even worse, if you have bad reviews, a number of bad reviews, that will really slow down your business. And trust me, I know this firsthand. I've dealt with a lot of lawyers over the years on this issue, and sometimes just a couple bad reviews that are prominently displayed at the top of Google. For instance, on your Google Plus page, if you've got a couple bad reviews there, let's say you only have 4 reviews total and 2 of them are bad, and that's always going to show up first, by the way, as we talked about. That's a huge problem. That will stop your phone from ringing, stop it cold, because people are are looking at these reviews. So you need to do something about it. You have to address it. You have to reach out to your clients who have been happy with you and have them leave positive reviews on your Google Plus page, and then start to develop a reputation management strategy of, okay, I know that these 8 or 10 sites are very important. It might be Yelp, it might be Manta, Avvo for sure. And I want to figure out a strategy of how can I move those up on the page, if it's appropriate. If there's a lot of bad reviews there and I want to just get rid of it entirely, then you need to come up with a strategy of how to do that. So that's where working with a professional reputation management company who knows what the heck they're doing is very, very important and worth the investment. And I mentioned that it's not uncommon for them to charge, depending on how severe your problem is, it's not uncommon for them to charge $5,000 a month for 3 months or 6 months because that's how long it takes to fix the problem. But in the end, is this worth it? Yeah, absolutely. If your average retainer is, say, $5,000, and this means that you're going to get several more clients a month because now your version of your story on your website matches everybody else's version of your story through third-party reviews. Well, is that investment worth it? Yeah, definitely. So it sounds, steep. It sounds expensive. I understand that, but you really need to spend some time, do some research on yourself, use many variations of your name, and figure out what the heck people are saying about you. It's that important. So that's really reputation management in a nutshell. Some of it you can control yourself. If you don't want to spend money at all, you can just go out and try to figure out which review sites are showing up right now, what people are saying about you, and try to get lots and lots of positive reviews to all these different sites. The only thing I'd caution you on is that the search engine's results are always shifting. So what's there today might not be there tomorrow. So in other words, if Yelp is showing up for Robert Whittle, Gainesville attorney, and there's no SEO being done to it at all, you could spend all this time getting your clients to review or leave good reviews on Yelp, and 3 weeks from now or 3 months from now, Google decides that it doesn't want to show that Yelp listing on page 1 anymore. Well, with SEO involved, it ensures that, or it's more likely than not that Yelp listing is going to stick around on page 1. So you can do some of it yourself, but if you have a problem of having a lot of bad reviews, you'll want to engage somebody to actually work on this for you. If you have no reviews at all, I would just start getting as many reviews as you can to different sites. Space them out. Don't tell all your clients to go leave reviews on one site. Space them out. Even if you get 2 or 3 reviews per site, that's great. And that's it. That's really the tactic. That's reputation management in a nutshell. The other thing is make sure that you're always also getting testimonials on your site. Make sure that they're prominently displayed on your site. I like to have them a lot of times in the header of a website to where they're kind of rotating with some pictures and things like that. Or at least where it's above the fold, meaning that somebody doesn't have to scroll to read your testimonials. You should have at least a couple testimonials that they can see without having to scroll. And then it's all about gathering reviews and coming up with a strategy. So I'll encourage you to go out there, search for your own name, and search for literally 10 variations of your name in your city, and figure out, what people are saying about you, and start to control the narrative yourself. It's that important. That alone can get your phone ringing a lot more. Or it can also mean that your phone won't ring at all if you don't do anything about it, because of, bad reviews will stop people in their tracks. They just won't call you. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Hope that this was helpful, and we'll talk soon. Take care.